What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are doing something absolutely insane. The year 2025 dropped some of the most hyped video games we have ever seen, with trailers that literally broke the internet and promises that seemed too good to be true. So I thought, what if we went through the 5 biggest, most talked about games of the year and figured out if they were actually good? We're not just looking at reviews from critics, we're diving deep into what you, the actual players, thought about them. Was it a masterpiece or a massive letdown? This is your ultimate guide to the best and maybe worst games of 2025. We're going to count down the top 5 releases that had everyone talking, from epic open world adventures to groundbreaking new genres. For each game, I'm going to show you the craziest moments, the coolest features, and then we're going to look at real player reactions. We've scoured forums, social media, and comment sections to get the real, unfiltered truth. Did these games live up to the insane hype, or did they completely flop? Get ready, because this is going to be a wild ride. We're going to settle the debate once and for all on which games truly owned 2025. And I promise you, some of the results are going to shock you. So grab your snacks, get comfortable, and let's jump right into our countdown of 2025's hottest games. Were they hits or misses? Let's go! Kicking off our list is Cybernetic Horizon, the game that literally everyone was waiting for. The developers promised a sprawling, futuristic city bigger than anything we've ever seen, with AI so advanced that every single character would have a unique life. The trailers looked absolutely mind-blowing, showing off flying cars, insane gunfights, and a story that seemed like it would change gaming forever. The hype was so massive that pre-orders sold out in minutes. This wasn't just a game, it was supposed to be the next step in digital entertainment, a true next-gen experience that would define the decade. So, what made this game stand out? Well, for starters, the world design was genuinely breathtaking. When you first stepped into the neon-drenched streets of Neo Alexandria, it felt incredible. The level of detail was off the charts, and the sheer scale of the city was something to behold. The core combat mechanics were also super fluid and satisfying, blending fast-paced shooting with slick cybernetic abilities that made you feel like a total badass. People who loved the game praised its ambitious vision and the moments where everything just clicked, creating unforgettable cinematic experiences that you just couldn't get anywhere else. But here's where it gets interesting. Was it a hit or a miss? The community was completely split down the middle. For every player who praised the stunning visuals and fun combat, there was another who pointed out the mountain of bugs and glitches at launch. Some quests were broken, the advanced AI often just stood around doing nothing, and many of the promised features were missing. The forums were a war zone. Some called it a buggy, unfinished mess that didn't deliver on its promises, while others defended it as a flawed masterpiece that was still one of the most ambitious games ever made. It was the definition of a love it or hate it game. Next up, we have Echoes of the Forgotten Kingdom, the fantasy RPG that was supposed to be the spiritual successor to some of the greatest adventure games of all time. The developers are legendary for creating deep, immersive worlds filled with lore and secrets, and the hype for this title was through the roof. They promised a massive open world, a branching narrative where your choices actually mattered, and a combat system that was both challenging and rewarding. The art style was beautiful, the music was epic, and everyone expected this to be a guaranteed Game of the Year contender. It was poised to be the adventure of a lifetime. So how did this title perform? In many ways, it completely delivered on its promise of a grand adventure. The world of Eldoria was vast and absolutely gorgeous, filled with hidden dungeons, ancient ruins, and mysterious characters. Players who dove in headfirst were rewarded with an incredible sense of discovery. You could spend hundreds of hours just exploring and still find new things. The story was also a major highlight for many, with compelling characters and genuinely tough moral choices that had long-lasting consequences on the world. It felt like a true, classic RPG brought into the modern era with incredible production values. But what did the community think? While the explorers and story lovers were singing its praises, another part of the community was a lot more critical. The main point of contention was the combat system. Many players found it to be slow, clunky, and unforgiving. It tried to be strategic, but for some, it just ended up being frustrating. The game's pacing was also a problem for those looking for a more action-packed experience, with long stretches of walking and talking. So, while one half of the community was calling it a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, the other half was calling it a beautiful but boring walking simulator. All right, for our third game, we have to talk about Project Nova. This game came out of nowhere. It was from a smaller independent studio and didn't have a massive marketing budget, but its unique concept went completely viral. It was a team-based shooter, but with a crazy twist gravity manipulation. Players were given devices that could create pockets of low gravity or high gravity, completely changing the battlefield on the fly. The gameplay clips that started circling online looked absolutely chaotic and unlike anything we'd ever seen before. The hype built organically, fueled by pure curiosity and the promise of a truly innovative multiplayer experience. So did this game live up to the hype? Oh, absolutely. Project Nova was a breath of fresh air in a genre that can sometimes feel a little stale. The gravity mechanic wasn't just a gimmick, it was a core part of the strategy. You could use low gravity to float over enemies for a surprise attack, or crank up the gravity to pin them behind cover. It led to some of the most creative and hilarious moments in online gaming this year. The learning curve was steep, but players who mastered the mechanics were able to pull off unbelievable plays. The community quickly fell in love with its fast-paced, high-skill gameplay. Here's what people are saying, and honestly, it's almost universally positive. This is one of the rare cases where the hype was not only met, but exceeded. Players praised the developers for taking a huge risk and creating something truly new. The game's community is known for being incredibly passionate and supportive, constantly sharing insane clips and strategies. Of course, no game is perfect. Some players complained about a lack of content at launch, with only a few maps and modes available. But the developers have been amazing, constantly communicating with fans and rolling out free updates. It's a true indie success story. The fourth game on our list is Starfall Odyssey, and this one was a huge gamble. It was a massive space exploration survival game with a procedurally generated universe. We're talking quintillions of planets you could land on and explore. The developers made some colossal promises, talking about seamless space-to-planet travel, complex crafting systems, and the ability to build entire empires among the stars. The ambition was off the charts, but it also made a lot of people skeptical. We've heard these kinds of promises before, and they don't always turn out so well. The question on everyone's mind was, could they actually pull it off this time? So was it a surprise hit or a letdown? The launch was rocky, to say the least. Many of the promised features were either missing or not fully implemented. The planets, while numerous, often felt empty and repetitive. The initial player reaction was harsh. Many felt let down, calling it another example of a developer overpromising and under-delivering. The game's review scores plummeted, and it looked like Starfall Odyssey was destined to become one of the biggest disappointments of the year. It seemed like the skeptics were right, and the dream of an infinite, explorable universe was just too big to be realized. But then, something incredible happened. The developers didn't abandon the game. Instead, they went quiet, worked tirelessly, and started releasing massive, game-changing updates for free. They added base building, multiplayer, new story content, and overhauled the entire planetary generation system. Slowly but surely, they turned the game around. Players started coming back, and new players discovered a game that was now much closer to its original vision. Today, Starfall Odyssey is considered one of the greatest comeback stories in gaming history. It was a letdown at first, but it evolved into a surprise hit beloved by a dedicated community. And finally, we've arrived at our number 5 game, the one that generated more arguments than any other, The Last Sentinel. This was the long-awaited sequel to a beloved classic, a story-driven third-person action game known for its emotional depth and incredible characters. The first game is considered by many to be one of the greatest of all time, so the pressure on this sequel was immense. The studio kept the plot shrouded in secrecy, but the trailers teased a much darker, more controversial story that would challenge players' expectations. The hype was a mix of pure excitement and genuine fear that they might mess up a beloved franchise. So, let's wrap up with this game. Was it a fan favorite or a flop? The answer is incredibly complicated because it was both. From a technical and critical standpoint, the game was a masterpiece. The graphics were stunning, the gameplay was polished to perfection, and the voice acting was phenomenal. Critics gave it perfect scores across the board, praising its bold narrative and unflinching storytelling. They called it a brave, mature, and important game that pushed the boundaries of the medium. For this group, it was not just a fan favorite, it was an artistic achievement. However, a huge portion of the fan base absolutely hated it. The story took some shocking and controversial turns, making decisions with beloved characters that many players found unforgivable. They felt the writers had betrayed the spirit of the original game and disrespected its legacy. The internet exploded with debate. It was a full-on culture war, with one side defending the game as a work of art and the other decrying it as a narrative disaster. It was a commercial success, selling millions of copies, but it completely fractured the fan base. It wasn't a flop in sales, but for many longtime fans, it was a total flop in spirit. And there you have it. The 5 biggest games of 2025 and the absolute chaos they caused online. From the buggy but ambitious world of Cybernetic Horizon to the incredible comeback story of Starfall Odyssey, it's been a wild year for gaming. It just goes to show that hype and trailers are one thing, but what really matters is the experience in the hands of the players. Some games divided the community right down the middle, while others brought everyone together in the most unexpected ways. It's been an absolutely insane journey. Now I want to hear from you. This is the most important part. Down in the comments, I want you to tell me, what was your favorite game of 2025, and were you on the love it or hate it side of the debate? Did The Last Sentinel break your heart or blow your mind? Did you grind Project Nova for hundreds of hours? Let me know everything. I'm going to be reading and replying to as many comments as I can because your opinions are what truly matter. Let's get a huge discussion going. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more crazy countdowns and gaming deep dives, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. We put a ton of work into this one, and every single like, comment, and subscribe helps out the channel more than you know. Seriously, you guys are the best. We'll see you in the next video.